Hi folks, welcome to Heart and Hand. A moment of Borna Barisic quality breaks the Buddies' defence. Simply the best at the simple digital arena. Hello, thank you for joining the Heart and Hand flagship show on Monday. My name is Cameron Bell. I am stepping in for Mr David Edgar as he is taking some well-earned time off and has entrusted me to be able to come to you guys with our usual weekly flagship show, which hopefully you've all been waiting for. I'm fortunate, however, that I've been able to pull out probably my dream team. I know you've all been doing your fantasy footballs recently. Well, my top two picks have been able to join me this evening. The first one is the wonderful Mr Adam Thornton.
Good evening, Cammy.
Good evening, Adam. Good evening. And Mr Smooth Radio himself, Mr Martyn Ramsey.
Good evening, Cammy. Good evening, Adam. Good evening, everybody.
How are we both? Are we well?
We are
very well, thank you. Yep.
Excellent. Well, listen, boys, we'll get cracked into it because we do have quite a bit to pick up this week as well. So first things first, obviously Rangers hot off a very, very fortunate game of football at the St Mirren Stadium, and I say fortunate because there was one team playing football and it wasn't St Mirren. Martyn, you were at the Simple Digital Arena. Did you get sunburnt? Did you want to take a good book? Sometimes it was a bit of a slog throughout the game.
No sunburn, thankfully. I did forget my cap, which any of you know me is a potential issue. But I was just about covered for the entire game, thankfully. Nice day in the sunshine. Maybe that affected the overall tempo of the game. Unseasonably hot, really. We've seen this story before, haven't we? Away from home. The first half resembled Kilmarnock a wee bit. The second half was a bit different, thankfully. But get used to it, buckle in, because this is what life is going to be on the road.
Yeah, so Rangers came into the game after the 0-0 draw across in Poland. The manager made 5 changes. I think it's fair to say, Adam, that the likelihood was going to be that we were going to see some squad rotation. Fortunately, it would appear that the only necessary change was going to be to Shea Ojo, who picked up a slight knock. But we did get an opportunity to be able to see a defence, including Philip Helander, in the league making his debut. Within the kind of start of the game, there wasn't really kind of too much in terms of open play, but the first chance did come within a few minutes when Scott Arfield played through Jermaine Defoe, a ball over the top of the kind of midfield, falls to Defoe, who has a beautiful touch with his side foot, plays it into Scott Arfield. Arfield then plays the 1-2 with him, and then unlikely for Defoe, he shoots wide of the post. Adam, it was a good opening gambit. I think it signified our intent straight from the off.
Yeah, definitely did. I think you're on the changes to the lineup. I think you're spot on. It's crazy that we can make 5 changes now, and everybody kind of thought, yeah, most of those seem okay. We've not really weakened the team too much. I think Barisic starting was maybe a surprise, although I would expect Flanagan to play both games coming up, and Halliday I don't think exactly covered himself in glory against East Fife, so it's maybe not that out of the ordinary for Barisic, and it's probably a good job that he did start. But yeah, you're right, that first chance was a great start, to be honest. If that goal went in, it was probably the best move of the game, actually, even though it happened so early, and you would put your money on Defoe getting that 99 times out of 100. If he had scored that within 2 minutes, that's game over, effectively. St Mirren's game plan is done, the game plan that we've seen. Probably they still would have done the same thing, but it just completely takes the pressure off, and I would imagine we go and get another couple of goals after that, but it wasn't quite to be.
Yeah, Martyn, I think, obviously Adam and I were there, we were watching, and I don't know if you saw this throughout the team, as obviously you're seeing the whole park. But it felt as if maybe we were a bit laboured to begin with. That one move aside, it kind of felt like as if we were having to try and settle our way into the game a little bit. Was that the kind of feeling in the crowd at the time?
A little bit. you would have a better view than me, because anyone who's sat behind a goal, certainly low down, I mean, it's absolute peasant ticket stuff. You don't appreciate how close that Defoe chance was, how good that Defoe chance was. You don't really appreciate breaking the lines, if at all. The fact that Jordan Jones was cutting in so much would indicate that we weren't really, but you're, I don't know what I was, row G, so you're not that far up, but it's very difficult to get a handle on. Obviously, second half's completely different, so it did feel a wee bit laboured, a lot of side to side. Again, same old. We've seen it so often last season. We'll talk about how we found the solution in the second half, and set plays are becoming more important to find the solutions to those extremely low blocks, and that's all well and good. But yeah, it felt a wee bit more of the same, a bit of huffing and puffing. But it difficult to tell at the time. I watched it back, but yeah, that was certainly a fair bit of murmuring around where I was about. Yep, strap in for another one of these classics.
Well, we nearly got a shock not long thereafter when we had quite a bit of a scare with Obika's slice cross came right across the back of the goal, and I don't really know what Alan McGregor was kind of thinking at this point, and all of a sudden I'm getting flashbacks to Daniel Candeias. But as it comes right across, Adam, I don't know if you felt McGregor was convinced that that was going wide or it was going over the top of the goal, but it comes off of his right hand post, and all of a sudden that seems like a little bit of the kick up the arse that we might have needed to perhaps raise the tempo slightly and get a little bit more urgency in our play.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those cross-come shots, isn't it? That I think it's clearly a punt into the box, and he's just, I think Obika's misjudged the flight of it, and so is McGregor. I think he probably thought it was sailing over. It would have been a comical goal, like you said. It would have been like Candeias', although even from a much harder angle. It was a wee bit of a wake-up call, I think, for us. Yeah.
And then later on, we also had maybe a slight penalty scare. I think having also probably watched it back a few times, I think that the correct decision came out of Kevin Clancy when Philip Helander almost brought down the St Mirren striker Obika in the box, but we got away with one. Some were saying, other people were saying, no, it's a coming together. Martyn, you're a massive VAR advocate. I'm hoping that having seen the replay, you've not had a change of heart, thinking Clancy's given the correct decision and actually it wasn't a penalty.
No, the replays are fairly conclusive, I would have thought. It wasn't a penalty. I text the group chat, I think, for a view on it, because it did look a bit of a coming together. It did look a bit clumsy. I think all I could say at the time was it wasn't handled particularly well from Helander. Slight concern there, but no, it wasn't a penalty. Although some fans on Twitter using that evidence as a clear-cut argument that it should have been a penalty, incredibly. Maybe the same St Mirren fans that were arguing about the handball penalty that we got at Ibrox last year, where the boy almost travels, in basketball terms, into the box with the ball in his hand. It might have been the same maniac that was showcasing that bit of evidence. But no, it wasn't a penalty. But it was a scare, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, so it gets us probably a couple of kind of wee tickles in terms of where we're at, and there wasn't really much more to kind of talk about actually up until the singular piece of quality was produced. Jermaine Defoe involved again. He's been able to kind of turn his man. As much as I dislike talking about him, I will refer back to Michael Stewart here, who unsurprisingly believed that this was a foul by Defoe, where he's being held and he's also holding his marker, but then Waters from St Mirren just comes in and completely wipes him out. And at this point, it's positioned probably about 25 yards out. Tav and Borna Barisic are standing over the ball. Adam, I've got to assume at this stage you're just waiting for your man to step up and break the deadlock, you know?
As he does so many times, yes, stepping up from a set piece or a dead ball. I thought it was probably more set up for Barisic, I think, given it's on that side of the park, etc. But you still think that Tav is going to take he's going to take the lead on it, being the captain.
And he had one earlier, didn't he? He had one in the first half.
Did.
Two of them were over, and
probably why he didn't take this one.
It was going miles wide, and it kind of deflected off the wall. And I was talking to the guy beside me about just asking him when the last time Tav scored from a free kick, because it used to be, every week he would score, when he started. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That was perfectly placed for the left foot. I think you're asking a lot of a right-footed player to get that over and across.
Do we count the Old Firm game as a free kick goal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but you know what I mean, though.
No, definitely. I think it's more of a cross come. It's more of a cross come goal. Yeah, no, I think you're right.
When he arrived, it was like, oh, we've got a free kick from anything inside 25, 30 yards. Even it was like having a penalty.
It's strange how players just stop doing that sometimes.
Yeah. There's nothing to do with the opposition.
No.
It's the same distance. It's just a confidence thing, I guess. I don't know. But it was one of those that the second it left the ground, it was in.
Well, listen. If Man United are going to rotate their penalty takers, then we should be able to rotate our free kick takers.
With a bit more success, hopefully.
Unlike Man United, we are far better at it. Borna Barisic steps up and hits a beautifully sweet strike, which goes over the wall straight into the postage stamp in the corner. The keeper, who, albeit I don't really think had too much to kind of do, was getting nowhere near it. And that is Borna Baric's first goal for the club since his last one against St Joseph's was stolen off him unceremoniously by Connor Goldson. Connor Goldson decided to also get his revenge in this because as Borna is standing in front of the Rangers fans celebrating, jumps in his back, and when you have a behemoth like that jumping in your back, you can do nothing but move forward. And as he did, he was put into the crowd and booked for his troubles. Adam, it was a cracker. Yes, I know you're the world's biggest James Tavernier fan, but you've got to admit that was an absolute cracking strike and brilliant to see him getting off the mark.
Oh, brilliant. It was just perfect, like Martyn said. As soon as it leaves his foot, it just curls perfectly. And there's is it GoPro or slow-mo that Rangers have got on Twitter? When you see it hitting the net, it's just perfect. I feel it's easy to say after he scored the only goal that's won us a game, but I kind of feel a bit sorry for Barisic. The last two games he's played it relatively safe. He's not made any mistakes, really. He's kept it neat and tidy. He's not really been rampaging forward. But if Andy Halliday delivers those type of performances, everybody thinks, he did all right there. He didn't do anything wrong. He was absolutely fine. It's just he seems to have a weight of expectation, I guess, based on what we've seen with Osijek, and also I guess the transfer fee hasn't really helped him. There's a really good piece in The Athletic today, Cammy, by Jordan Campbell, obviously, about Barisic. He's went and interviewed the Osijek manager, who I think we'll all remember from last year, but he's surprised with how poorly he's done since he's been at Ibrox. I think everybody could say the same. But what he did say was that they used to basically set up the team specifically to get the best out of Barisic. Literally 90% of their play was to get him free. Even if they went down the right, it was with the aim of switching it over quickly so they could get him free. I think what we see here is that he's maybe not quite as rounded at other aspects as he could be, other than just that rampage down the wing. So obviously when we are set up to play a little bit differently than that, and we want him to take the ball in tight spaces and effectively do what Tav does, which is kind of beat two men or shimmy it past two men quickly and deliver a ball in, he's maybe not quite suited to it. What he is really suited to, obviously, is pinging the ball into the box, which I guess is fine, but when your Rangers playing against St Mirren, the last thing you kind of want to do is get down the wings and get it wide and ping balls into the box for Defoe. It doesn't really work. So I do feel he's a wee bit still trying to find his feet, both in terms of, I guess, fitness and his role within the squad, but I guess how to combat teams that we play against. He's probably never really experienced that before.
And there's a bit of catch-22 about it, because what we expect from him, what we know he can do, takes a lot of confidence. And it takes a lot of positivity, and it's risk reward stuff, right? That's kind of overlapping fullback, bombing up and down, giving that option for the guy on the left hand side of the three, the way that Tav has done pretty much since he came through the door. Such a stop-start season last year. At any club is difficult for a new arrival. At any club in a new country is difficult, and this is one of the hardest football clubs in the world to get started at. And if you don't get started, it's nigh on impossible to turn that around. You're talking about a handful in my 30 odd years of watching Rangers who've been able to do that. And especially at this period of history where we are starving, ravenous for success. We want it yesterday, no patience at all, understandable to a degree given everything that's happened. So the circumstances are not ideal. He's a professional footballer, although he has to overcome that. But in order to do what he can do, he needs to have a positive mindset, and that has to come from confidence, which has been shot to shit. And then after that incredible goal, he's holding. I don't know if he pulled up with cramp or something, because again it's down at the other end of the field. But you're thinking, oh Christ, surely he's not going to come off injured after just an incredible goal. You hope that's going to kickstart his career maybe, because that hasn't helped last year as well, obviously with the injuries. So it's a tricky one, because we're asking him to do something that only a guy absolutely full of confidence can do.
It's difficult, I think. And I think, we refer back to, obviously, because he's been attached to the now infamous Liverpool under-23 game. And I think that has been his real turning point, because I think we all know well enough now that if the manager is not seeing enough from you in training in terms of what you're doing and what you're delivering in day-to-day, firstly, you're not playing at the weekend. And secondly, your time at the club is going to be pretty limited. What I would like to believe, and what I think a lot of Rangers fans see, is and I understand the weight of expectation coming into him, totally understand all of that. But then there's also the point of, well, he doesn't really have any major competition for the slot. So unlike Tav, who pretty much just owns that position and won't ever really be moved from it, Barisic should have that opportunity. However, like other positions within the team, including Alfredo Morelos, he's going to have to rotate and take his opportunity when it comes. So I think, personally speaking, I admire the fact that he is going to try and prove to the manager that when he gets his opportunity, he's going to hopefully create opportunities like the goal that he scored on Sunday. But also the game, against St Joseph's, where, let's face it, he did play very well, should have scored in terms of, obviously goals and nicked the ball off the line with him. My hope is that it gives them the beginning of the platform of the season to kind of continue to build on that. And if we can retain him and we can take him in there, as long as his attitude stays in check, then I think that, we very much could look like a very successful player. The goal was obviously a piece of absolutely fantastic quality. On the Patreon post-match update, David had said yesterday that he had felt that we'd been able to kind of see the game out. It wasn't too much of an issue. It didn't feel as if it would turn into Kilmarnock, because quite bizarrely, St Mirren never really felt the need to kind of come out against this, which I was really surprised at. I don't know. I would have absolutely have assumed that with a good maybe third of the game left to play, that at that point they would have opened it up and tried to come in. But they've remained in the same formation as well, Adam.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised at all. Really, they defended so deep. It was literally from 30 yards from their goal, and I guess that's where the frustration comes in with the performances of our players. I don't think we've said many times on this show that we don't need to play Jack and Kamara together in these type of games. We don't need to, regardless of the position they're playing in the field, we don't need two players whose game is more suited to keeping the ball and kind of recycling play. We want players who move forward a bit more. I know Jack does that over this season and kind of the tail end of last season. He's been doing that very, very well, and he's absolutely improving at it. But he played, certainly for the first half, predominantly in the defensive midfield role. So guys like Kamara really need to step up and be that link man and get forward. Has to be said, Aribo had another quiet game after Thursday night. These are the games that, for me, he's being bought to absolutely dominate and to get on the ball, rampage forward, commit defenders, play the ball into Defoe, play it into Arfield, play it into Jones, get Barisic on the overlap. And it just didn't really happen. We knew the problems with the midfield last year were well documented. We didn't have enough quality. We didn't have enough players who could change games. Joe Aribo is doing that. It's probably unfair to say that he is in a quiet period or anything, but certainly these last two games he's been a little bit safer than he was in the earlier games. So for me, if he's not on form, if Jones, as Martyn alluded to, isn't on form. Now, Jones has had a lot of plaudits this season, but the caveat for me is he's had a lot of plaudits playing against teams who don't defend deep. Now, that was always the issue last year, was how is he going to do against teams that defend deep? Now, yesterday we seen not very well, really, if we're honest, and when you don't really score and you don't assist many goals, as he doesn't, I think he only got four goals and assists last year in its entirety. You need to be that guy who is assisting the assister, or being involved in the build-up play. He was essentially just getting the ball yesterday and kind of running down the wing and trying to cut in and then shoot or cross. There wasn't really much guile about it. Whereas on the other side with Arfield, you have essentially too much guile, where he's trying to be too clever, and slip balls in that Defoe's not getting, or we've not got Aribo, or we've not got Camera supporting. So while St Mirren, Cammy, didn't come out and they were maybe deeper than even we thought, one goal wasn't going to change that for them. They're just happy not to get a doing. I think at this stage in the season, for me, we had to be a lot more aggressive, and I think it says it all when you hear people's man of the matches and they're saying it's maybe Goldson or it's Ryan Jack. Kind of two of the most defensive players on the park when we're playing against a team like this. It really says it all. The attack for me just didn't get firing. We could have and should have really got the game to bed before half time, got a couple of decent players rested for Thursday night, but instead while I agree with David's point, we were never really in doubt, although that chance could go anywhere in the last minute.
Scares.
We're never really in doubt. However, we shouldn't have to be concerned that there's 6 minutes of stoppage time. That's the big thing for me, really.
Martyn, the point I was going to... So Adam's totally right. The point we're going to come back to as well was not only just the stoppage time and the chances that obviously we just kind of alluded to. We take Jones off because I think not necessarily through any kind of fault of his own. He didn't really have the kind of the space to be able to get in there. But we brought Stephen Davis on, and then with 50 minutes to go, Jermaine Defoe, who, if I'm being perfectly honest, didn't have his best game for Rangers. But again, I think that's probably due to the setup more than maybe having an off day. He's replaced by Alfredo Morelos. Alfie was able to kind of carve open a couple of chances. Now, I suppose really what I'm quite excited about is obviously, you know, as we've seen previously, Morelos is a great opportunity to be able to come off the bench, and even when he comes off, he's still, you know, scoring, you know, 2 goals in a game. He comes off he comes off the bench on Sunday, comes on, and almost kind of through his own work rate creates a couple of chances as well, which you know, were unlucky. One of them in particular, where he's kind of skinned his man, come inside, hits right across the goal face. You know, 6 inches to the right hand side. That's going in the far away post. Scott Arfield then is replaced by Andy King, making his league debut for the club. Yes, we're using 3 substitutes. Yes, we've been able to try and do that. We are being pragmatic with our resources as well. But are we back to a position just now where, in order to calm nerves and to solidify the result, similar to Kilmarnock, we need to go 2 goals in front?
Yeah, just because we still have that scar tissue from last year, I guess, as supporters. And again, it's maybe us projecting onto the players. Maybe they don't feel it. Maybe they do feel comfy and secure. But away games, that's the ball game this season, right? If you want to be league champions, we need to convert the away defeats and draws into wins. Simple as that. And that means coming up with other ideas to break this stodginess that we always face. So we know, because of our experience last season, that we've seen this movie before, there's a sting in the tail here. And it could have happened, by the way. near the end. So again, it's because we've been here. We do this 3 or 4 more times. We just get that win, another set piece. We're always dangerous from a corner or a free kick or whatever, and we just start getting some wins on the road. Then as supporters, we probably just relax a wee bit more, because now experience and evidence tells you we'll find a way. And you flick it over. You get to 70 minutes and it's still 0-0, but we'll find a way, because I've seen us do it, the past 3 or 4 or 5 games. So we're only shaped by what we know, I guess. I actually thought the goal did change how we played. It might have been because I was seeing more of the action because it was up my end. Pardon the phrase. But I did think we were breaking in behind more. I did think we were able to just pierce the lines a wee bit. There's a lot of neat passing around the box, which was good. This is the final decision making. I mean, Morelos created a fair bit of space for himself now and again, but he went for goal rather than there's maybe some other options available to him. But he's the striker he is. He's always going to do that, I guess. So again, it could have been far more comfortable than it needed to be. But that's the 2 away league games where a corner kick and a free kick, excellent deliveries, both of them, have been enough, and that's fine, because our set piece execution last year probably wasn't good enough, both from direct and indirect chances. And you can have as low a block as you want, pick that out the fucking net. So teams, again, if that happens again and again, teams are wary of that. Teams are wary of our ability from outside the box a wee bit more. I know Aribo was quiet certainly on Sunday, Thursday night maybe, but he has that ability too. So it's good to have more and more options, and that, I thought, as I said, it opened the game up a wee bit more. We just didn't maybe make the most of that. 4 centre mids on the park at one time was a bit of a funny one. We throw back to Walter, I don't know, but Andy King looked pretty comfortable. He kind of knows what he's doing. And so again, having someone like that just to bring on, we've talked about this bench quite a lot on post matches. It must be the strongest we've had since maybe even early McLeish, because he's a proper footballer there that can just come on and just take the ball for a bit.
I think the point there you made about the subs is pretty key. It just shows how cautious Gerrard is as a manager, that you go, not in a bad way, but it's safety first really, same as Walter, but you go that 1 goal up and you're thinking, who was it that we were thinking was due to come off? I can't remember who it was. Arfield maybe.
It must have been Arfield, yeah.
Or Kamara possibly, and he takes off Jones and puts on Davis.
Stephen Davis,
which is just to see out the game. Obviously, Aribo goes a little bit higher and wider, but Martyn, that point about the kind of PTSD from last year is absolutely valid. Gerrard said after the game, Cammy, that if you can't beat them, if you can't beat that low block through playing through them, then the next best thing is to set pieces. Really, we've seen the threat that we've got from corners. We're obviously got that threat from free kicks now as well, from both sides, you have to say, which is good. So there's that, and you're right, teams will start to notice. Cammy, that the structure of the team though is looking a lot more solid, I would say, in terms of certainly defence and midfield. The first 3 games last season, which was obviously Aberdeen, Motherwell and St Mirren, I think it was, we conceded 32 shots and lost 4 goals. 3 or 4 of them were really poor defensive errors, I would say, 2 or 3 of them, sorry. But this season, they're not really that bad. 32 shots last season conceded at this stage, but only 17 so far this season. The games have probably been comparable, I would say, in terms of teams that we've played. So we are a bit better. We're giving up less chances. The midfield looks more solid and more structured. It's just heavily dependent on Joe Aribo taking the ball and driving it forward. But I think Davis and Jack seem to be working really well together in terms of keeping the ball out and giving us a platform to play on. We just need the attacking players to take the ball and take the onus and try things.
And that's fine, by the way. I'd rather we had that solidity, because clearly we didn't have it last year. We were capable of being porous.
Yep.
And fine, you get that and you build on it. And again, the confidence up front comes from the fact that we'll keep the door closed, right? So if it gets to the hour mark, gets to 70 minutes, we'll find something. but we're not going to get stung the way we were last year. And it's all from just, I think it's been said quite often since we came back, but for the first time since probably 2010, a Rangers manager has been able just to add properly to a squad that he's happy with, and hopefully some pennies dropping, some more work being done over pre-season, with a consistent group of players. So a consistent message starting to just seep in. And you are seeing those rewards, because clearly those foundations were not strong enough last year. We dropped 4 points in our opening 2 away league games, behind the 8 ball already, always chasing. And that's the difference.
Well, one of the things that we were talking about with that solidity, and something that I'm keen to get your opinions on, is the obvious conversation that has to happen around our centre halves. So Katic obviously was given a rest. There's no injury concerns as come out of the club so far. Philip Helander comes in. There seems to be, because of our marquee signing status for Helander, that he should be able to come in and perform pretty well. I'm not going to judge him too heavily on what we've seen so far, because it's been a bit of a kind of stuttered introduction to the team. I think he would have received a lot of negative press had that penalty claim been given. I still think we're sitting in a position where our preferred options just now is Goldson and Katic. Adam, would you want to be able to see, so for example, obviously we've got some important games coming up this week, which we're about to touch on. Would you like to see changes? Do you want to keep Nico and Connor, or would you like to be able to swap it around a bit to give Helander the opportunity to come into some of the kind of larger, more important games?
Not right now. I think it's Goldson and Katic, and to be honest, I think most people would have called that pre-season, or certainly pre-Helander coming in, that we'd want Goldson and Katic to start as they did last season. There's 4 of them there, which is great. However, the money spent in that area, I think I'm on record before as saying, did we really need to spend that money on Helander? I think he's been absolutely fine since he's come in. Personally, I don't think he's put a foot wrong. But £3.5 million on someone who is now on the bench, when we could, as it turns out, have spent that money on Kent and possibly got him in. I'm on the fence with that one, Cammy, but regardless, the original point there, I think it's Goldson and Katic for just now, and then if, hopefully all being well, we get further in Europe, we can start rotating a bit properly, but I think there's no chances at the minute.
No, Mark, is there a part to that which is obviously got to take into account for how well Katic has started? Because I don't think
absolutely
anyone, could have expected how well he's come out the traps at the beginning of this season.
Well, yeah, yes and no, because he was like this at the end of last season. But you're absolutely right. There's no. He's still a young player. He's still in a new country. He's prone to bouts of, as any young player is, bouts of peaks in form. So I guess Gerrard looks at that and thinks possibly Edmondson's at the same level in terms of experience, etc. It maybe be worthwhile to have another star centre half in there, and you can't really argue with that. And I think you're right. Katic has started the season very well, and I don't think there's any reason to drop him just now.
No, I would agree with that. I think the immediate listen, these 2 games are huge. You can't play a transfer fee in these 2 games. Those 2 are the form centre halves. They have a partnership. As we speak at this moment, it's hard to argue against Adam's concern about the need for a large amount of our scarce resources being placed there. However, let's revisit that in 6 months' time, because if this is really the renaissance of Nico Katic, and he, young player, new country, started well, then fell away, and maybe some off-field stuff, got his head together, responded really well, and this is him for good, then he's going to be a Rangers legend, right? But again, he's still a youngster. We could well be seeing him have an October-November like we did last year. In which case, you're fucking right. We need someone able to step up, because the options weren't there last year, totally, and that was a problem. So this is a longer term issue, I imagine. I don't think Hilander was brought in for the month of August and September, and we're not in a position to say Goldson and Katic or the form that we've seen so far. That's going to be the way it's going to be for the entire season, because we sat here in August last year with some similar thoughts about them. They, especially in Europe, they had started really, really well. So we need 2 players for every position. End of story.
Well, we've alluded to it so far, so let's move on to obviously the week ahead. Obviously, a massive game coming up on Thursday for us at home to Legia Warsaw. Legia, it seems, had a little bit of their kind of own issue across the weekend, because they played against second from bottom Lodz. And what would have appeared to have been a relatively straightforward game. However, Adam, they had quite a number of players rested for it. They won the game 3-2, but had to come back from a goal down twice in order to be able to try and do that. It's even obviously from the first leg away, so it is going to be a shootout on Thursday night. We will obviously see changes coming into the team. What's your thoughts in terms of what we can try and get out of it?
Yeah, I think it was 9 changes they made, wasn't it? It was only the goalkeeper and the left back, I think, they played. So I guess, yeah, they're going down. Going down early doors isn't great, but the fact they've come back shows a wee bit of character, but it's almost irrelevant, I guess, really, isn't it, given the entire team's going to change. I was a wee bit disappointed last week's game. I felt like we controlled it very well in the first half. We knew they would come out in the second half for the first 20 minutes or so, but then it was pretty obvious thereafter that was kind of them done, and I felt like we had a wee opportunity there to go and get a goal, a wee bit of risk reward. 1-0 would have been brilliant for us, and I think obviously puts us hugely in the driving seat. But as it stands at 0-0, Cammy, they need to come out. The onus is on us to get a goal. Obviously, we'll be wary of them on the counter, but we're good at this. We're decent at this. They'll come out a bit. We'll hopefully be able to pick them off. We're not too bad at keeping the back door shut just now. I fancy us to at least to win the game. Absolutely. I can see possibly it getting a wee bit nervy if we're at 0-0 or 1-0 as we head up to half time. I don't think anybody's really going to settle down until we go, maybe if we go 2 goals up, I would say. But then you obviously do need to be wary of them in the break. But I didn't see massive amounts to concern myself with. If I'm honest, I thought we handled them relatively well, and I think we should have a decent amount of firepower.
Martyn, you're one of the most optimistic guys I know. You must surely be sitting there thinking, yeah, we'll be 4 up by half time.
Maybe just a 3. Listen, it's we at this stage of a recovery, I don't think we're in a position where we are expecting or should be expecting group stage football in Europe. We certainly won't be budgeting for it, I don't imagine. And both seasons now, I think we've been okay in terms of the draw, in terms of the luck we've had, because it could have been a hell of a lot better. I think we'd all have taken at the start of qualifying again for a 0-0 situation, the home leg, and just a kind of one-off game to get through again. It would be another remarkable feat if we were able to do that. The lack of away goal worries me slightly. And the threat of a score draw worries me even more. But we're in a great position. It's going to be an exciting evening, and I'm a bit nervy already, I'll be honest. I'm not thinking we're going to cruise it.
Do you think it's going to be the case that Adam will start conservatively and build our way into the game? Do you think that we will look to be able to try and go from the outset? Do you have a preference as to regards what you would want to do? What's your thoughts in terms of how we approach it in the opening gambit?
No, we can't. I don't think we can start conservative at all. We're not good at that. Feeling our way into the game, we need to come out and we need to be in the front foot and try and get a goal within the first 10-15 minutes. That will just settle everybody's nerves. I think that's the way we should approach games. and I really think that's what we need to do in this game. I would treat them kind of not Maribor levels last year, Rapid Vienna levels possibly last year in terms of the danger they have. They're a kind of similar style of team. Obviously that result last season at Ibrox was 3-1, wasn't it? If we get that again, we'll be absolutely laughing. I think we've got it in us. I take Martin's point that we can't turn up and win, but I think from what I've seen, we are more than a match for them. And I'll be obviously really disappointed if we come and we start trying to play it safe and hope to nick a goal late on, because that never works for Rangers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, because I think that we're going to have to be able to try and go out. I agree with you. I don't think we can really go out there and leave ourselves exposed. We will obviously come on to Thursday's game and some news which has kind of been developed from over the last week or so shortly. But it's important, Martin, that the crowd get behind the team, that we do create the energy in case maybe it's lacking from a team, although I don't believe that it will be. I think that we'll go out. I think we will try and be lively. I think that we will try to ensure that we pick up control of the game early stages within the first 10, 20 minutes or so, and then hopefully get there. Is it going to be the case that, we've got the character in the team that worst case scenario we concede early? Do you feel that at the moment, from everything that you've seen, that we've got the testicular fortitude, as some would call it, to be able to turn it around if that happens in a worst case scenario?
Yes, I think we do. we do. Well, it depends when a goal scored, I guess. I don't think this team often push the panic buttons. Especially try to recover leads, and then it goes completely tits up. I don't know how many times we've lost by more than one goal. It can't be that often under Gerrard. I mean, so I don't think there'd be a big deviation from the plan. We probably need 2 goals anyway to be absolutely sure, or to feel sure. So certainly if we lose one early-ish. No, I don't have any big concerns. Lose one with too much to go, we're in a bit of trouble. But no, it's just going to be one of those nights in terms of the atmosphere. The atmosphere will be what it will be. I've been to big European nights before where we have been as supporters, we've been tense, because that's the game. It's the context of the game provides an atmosphere, not anything else. It's the sport, it's the outcome, it's the jeopardy, it's how we've been playing before it, it's the standard of the opposition, all these things. And sometimes you just know those famous nights before, when you just go into the stadium and go, right, we're on it. And there's no contrivance or design for that. It will be what it is, and it will be noisy. But the test of these nights, I guess, is if there's an early disappointment and how we respond to that. But the team will. It's a symbiotic relationship, right? I get a wee bit upped when we talk about the fans, the job that the fans have. Especially when you're paying £800 a year to be there. The players are there to do a job, but we bounce off each other. And if we those early signs that they're on it, then we're on it, and then it gets bigger and bigger. So it'll be an exciting night. I'm looking forward to it. If a little nervy that we go.
Well, as I'm sure probably for most Rangers fans who have been following the news cycle within the last week or so, the Legia game has been impacted due to a fine which has been presented to the club from UEFA following reports of sectarian singing from the St Joseph's home game. As a result of this, Rangers have been ordered to close a section of the stadium with no fewer than 3,000 seats, which would be, and also have a sign displayed with the hashtag Equal Game message displayed upon it. Adam, there has been a lot of back and forth, I think, through the papers, through social media, through various bits and back and forth, including banners displayed by the Union Bears in the last 24 hours. And this has been around the notification that several people, if will face the majority of that closed allocation within the BF1 area that obviously the Union Bears occupy. This has been due to Rangers obviously reacting to the UEFA statement, fans and what they are obviously been singing. What's been your take on everything that's happened within the statement released on Friday?
Do you know, I can see both sides of it. To be honest, I think the banners yesterday by the Union Bears were probably ill-advised, but I don't think there's anything really malicious there. I don't think they've done any harm. It's maybe just a bit of frustration on their part. I think the statement that the Union Bears released, classing UEFA as a dubious organisation, kind of doesn't do them any favours, to be honest. We have to do what UEFA say in their competitions. That's just facts. Rangers have obviously acted swiftly to appease UEFA, with good reason, as we want to stay in the stadium, we don't want stadium closures, etc. I think for me though, Cammy, it is worth questioning fair though. They're not a new thing, we know their links, but you would hope that the club are doing that already. It would be good to know that for sure, that the club are kind of trying to deal with that situation rather than it just being in the background. David has mentioned on countless pods that Fair are at the stadium for every Euro game. I think they've been at every home game since Progress 2 years ago. Are the club questioning why we get this treatment and why others don't? Is it even-handed? Are they targeting us for reasons that I think a few people have a rough idea about, but is everyone aware of what's happening? I'm not saying that it's wrong for us to be facing these penalties, but are we on the front foot with it as a club? Are we just accepting this, or is there anything that we can do to make sure we get a bit of an even hand?
Martyn, there's a conversation here which I think feels like the dialogue swing between ourselves and UEFA, whether it's via Fair or UEFA, is very much one way. But that seems to also show that there should be a greater dialogue between the club and the Union Bears as well. Because obviously, as we've released the statement regarding obviously what's happened, etc., there is a backlash from the Union Bears. Do you feel that what could potentially get us onto the right foot at this point and avoid any further issues? Because what's quite clear now is, and we can discuss political leanings and preferences and, treatment being fair or unfair or whatever, it is what it is. And it's going to come back to us if we continue doing it. So we have to make changes. That the club and the Union Bears should open up a dialogue with each other to say, you need to be able to support us doing X if you support us doing Y. Because I think that from someone who's not involved and has no dog in the fight, it can look from the outside looking in that there is no dialogue, there is no, conversations happening to say, look, we need to stem this. If you truly claim to be the voice of Ibrox, you need to do this, this and this in order to make sure that we're not penalised for this. I'm not suggesting for a single minute that Union Bears are responsible for 51,000 people, but what I'm saying at that stage is, okay, I don't think anyone, as you've already said, pays 800 quid to go and, self-police the guy next to you if he then decides to start singing songs which are deemed by UEFA as racist and sectarian. Do you feel as if that would be the starting point in being able to try and progress forward with this so that we avoid fines, stand closures, stadium closures, potential expulsion, etc.?
Well, everything moved at pace last week. Kind of out the blue and kind of not. I mean, nothing's changed really since 2006. We've known that these songs, and we know what we're talking about here, two in particular, have the potential to get us into trouble. I think there's been a feeling, maybe a wee bit of complacency that, well, this is kind of over now, because the songs were there last season, and nothing's really been done. So this kind of came out the blue a wee bit. The club may have felt the need to act publicly and swiftly because, Adam said, we'd kind of like to keep playing in these UEFA competitions. There's not really another show in town with regards, international competition. So we are kind of at their behest. In terms of UEFA sanctions, the situation's very, very clear. Those songs that are going on now, it's done, it's over. the biggest surprise for me was that there were any songs sung at that St Joseph's game. The most deadest of dead rubbers I can remember. But it's just such a joy to be talking about fucking songs again after 13 years. In one sense, this is very, very simple, as we know, in terms of UEFA sanctions. It absolutely is. But you know, Adam's right. There are other things going on that I hope the club are working with, because the way, or the involvement of fair is less than fair. I think it's fair to say. UEFA's consistency on these matters, how they act, needs to be commensurate. It needs to be consistent. And that's another issue. All these are fine to bring up. They don't excuse anything when we know the rules. And I say we as a collective, it isn't just that group in the Broomloan Road. So there is a collective responsibility. I think it's probably been ignored this week, and the club publicly anyway seems to suggest that, you know, it was an exclusive group of people who were involved in singing these songs, which it's not the case. So it's been a wee bit confusing, but I think it's been a wee bit panicked, because the situation's clearly it's been pretty quick to turn around, unless there's obviously discussions behind the scenes that we're not aware of.
Well, I think you're right that it was very, very quick, wasn't it? Like I don't know how I can't proclaim to know how this has worked with section closers they've done before in any other stadiums for racism, etc. But the fact that it comes out and then we get a statement out quickly, and then it just happens. Is there an appeals process that's
No.
went through, anything like that? Is it just basically, this has happened, if you don't do this, what's the punishment if you don't do it? All that sort of stuff. I feel like we didn't really get much in the way of any background or context as to what happened. I think the club could. I get, Cammy, that they're probably tied to, you need to do this or else you literally can't play this game on Thursday, as a realistic thing you could imagine UEFA saying. But could they have handled it a little bit better? Possibly. The two different email templates, one for BF1 and one for Club Deck, seems a bit odd, a little bit petty. And also, I think there's a wee bit of an elephant in the room for me, that given the complete lack of any communication of reassurance to supporters with regards to the crushing and turnstile issues at Kilmarnock, by not commenting on issues like that, Cammy, which affect fan safety and affect the fans directly, and then coming out with this statement, which I completely agree with, but bringing this statement out so quickly and so hard-hitting, I guess, it could potentially get certain fans' backs up a little bit. There's, I guess, a reasonable argument there, what is deemed worthy of action by the club and comment by the club, and what isn't.
I think so. It's interesting, and I think you're right, and I think that there's certain aspects where the club will respond quickly. I can't necessarily blame the club for saying, well, if it's a UEFA directive, we have to respond. We're obviously still involved in the tournament, and hopefully can say that on Friday. So therefore, we have to be able to be seen to take action, and that action has to be swift, and you have to take it from there. Martyn, there's a point to this, and I'm interested to get probably both your takes on this kind of quickly. Is I'm not suggesting that Rangers fans can go down a road of what about today and hey them over there, etc. But the missing part to this feels slightly as if we're going to go down 15, 20 years ago and we're going back to those stages and we're talking about things like strict liability, etc. Surely there has to be some sort of involvement from the SFA to say you as a club, cannot say X. However, you as a club can say X because you mean it a different way. And I think that we've seen some of that domestically. Now, there's obviously no reason for UEFA to get involved in this because it's a Scottish game. And I think if you're talking about fueling a fire, which Rangers fans may feel, that if Celtic fans are able to create and host banners in the stadium which use potentially deemed racist and sectarian language, they may feel as if, well, if that word is fair game, then it's fair game. And is it the job of the SFA to come into it and say, well, when these things happen, And I would probably open that up to other usage. So Huns, for example, seems to be a word which is used without any real backlash whatsoever, predominantly by the Celtic support, of course. But if we're talking about using the F word, if we're talking about other derogatory terms, is it the position of the SFA, is it their responsibility to come into it and say, you cannot say, display, chant, sing, mention these words or phrases in any capacity, otherwise you will face action?
Yeah, that's the road that has to go down, or it looks like it has to go down, and it's a slippery, slippery road. The part of the frustration I think we all feel, and even our own groups have not been, in terms of, you know, WhatsApp or whatever, our own conversations have not been harmonious on the subject, because it's complex, it's layered. Issues around free speech are involved. Issues around what's pantomime now and what's not. Really a sectarian problem in an overwhelmingly secular country? Now, once upon a time, that was absolutely correct. It was a manifestation of a genuine sectarian division in Scotland, because that was part of Scottish life, because religion was a part of Scottish people's lives, a big part. It's not the case anymore. It's a hangover, a lot of that stuff. It is a pantomime. There's maybe a political element to it, which brings the F word into another kind of context. And when the Green Brigade dress and act the way they do after their paramilitary heroes, is it really that surprising that maybe younger Rangers fans might want to remind them that their heroes lost, and that's a good thing that they lost? But it's all fueled by football rivalry. That's all this is. And football rivalry is based on badges. It's based on using what you can from the past to say, I am this and you're that. You're talking about a song that's used all over Scotland and Greenock and Paisley and Ayr and Kilmarnock and maybe Dundee as well. You're swapping words to say that's all right and that's not. Because when you're getting into that kind of conversation, where what words are we allowed to use and what we're not? This is why that's why the situation is so complex underneath the UEFA thing, which is absolutely very simple. There's no argument there that's kind of been lost. But the frustration holds because it isn't as simple as that. And what about it gets used so often? I would love a defence lawyer when they bring case law into their defence for a judge to say stop using whataboutery, because that's literally what it is. It's bringing, well, you know, the law of the land has acted in this way in a similar kind of situation. It has to be consistent. So the whole thing's just a mire. It's just a mess. And when you start just taking away, well, this word and that song, and you've opened it all up. And I think that's where the frustrations come from, because we are treated slightly differently. That does not mean that as a support we can say, you know what, does that song really have a place anymore? That's, in my opinion, my only individual opinion. That is for the supporters as a group to decide, not really the law of the land personally. But it's what produces all this angst, really. And it's why this situation is never clear cut, because a lot of it's pantomime, and you see it. You must see it through football rivalries all over the world. Is the Milan, you know, Adam, you're the Italian expert. Is the Milan division still based on class the way it absolutely was maybe 70, 80 years ago? I don't know. I imagine it's kind of changed a wee bit, because, you know, things do change and things become a wee bit more homogenous. But it wouldn't surprise me if slogans and songs are still used to depict that division. It must exist all through the game, and it's picking apart what's a genuine problem in society and what is, pantomime, and that's what causes us some issues. And when we're trying to portion blame, the way that the club have had to do, I think, or felt they had to do, we can't neatly fit it in a box.
Milan's not based on a class anymore. They tend to just throw burning scooters at each other off the side of the stadium.
Yeah.
Can we bring that in here?
Yeah, that would be quite good, yeah.
Adam, do you feel in that instance, as kind of Martin's obviously touched on there quite extensively, that we're talking about we need to do a review across all of the language to be able to then say, you know, if that word offends me and that one doesn't, that is too much of a grey area? Or are we talking about a complete revision of what we can and can't say and what's acceptable, and if you say things that are, you know, outlawed, that there'll be repercussions?
I started off when this came out thinking, I think everybody knows what they're not supposed to say. I think it's kind of obvious, but I think unless it's prescribed as that, unfortunately, you're always going to leave yourself open, and someone's always going to say, well, I didn't say that, or I didn't sing those words. So I don't know whether it's the return of the Wee Blue Book or something like that, or whether there's an SFA mandate, but I think the club need to be clear, and the club need to come out and say, here are a list of songs that you cannot sing because we will get into trouble with UEFA or possibly the SPFL or the SFA or anybody. Here are a list of songs that you can sing, a kind of agreed songbook, if you like, celebrating Rangers. I think they need to come out and do that for everybody's sake, just to kind of, I guess, protect themselves as well, and just make that Dubai clear. It's kind of a shame that it probably has to come to that, but I think just for safety on the club's part, I think that's something they should look to do.
Okay, well, listen, we've spoken about this at length, and if you've enjoyed listening to what we've been discussing today, please ensure that you check out our Patreon site, which is patreon.com/Heart and Hand. Not only will you hear debates such as one that you've heard tonight, but there is a whole plethora of shows onto the Heart and Hand Patreon site, which you can listen to for as little as $1.69 a month. You'll be able to hear instances such as the boys have referred to, such as some of our Italian coverage as well, which has now started back up again with the season opening up. And we will also be doing previews of the Old Firm game. Unfortunately, because of Thursday's game, we won't be doing our usual Heart and Hand extra show. But whilst I have you both here, I would like your predictions, please, for our next two games. So, Adam, will come to you first.
I'm going to go 3-1 Thursday and 2-0 Sunday.
Okay, Martin?
2-1.
2-1. Nice and simple. Okay, I will say that we will win both games, and I will say that we will win 2-0 on Thursday night and 4-0 on Sunday. And if those come in, then you two are buying the beers. Okay, all that's left for me to do is to thank the executive producers in London, Mr. Mike Lee and Mr. Paul Myers. It's been wonderful talking to you both, and thank you for stepping in. Obviously, we're only doing this as Mr. Edgar is getting a well-earned rest. He will be back at the helm very, very shortly. So thank you very much, Mr. Adam Thornton.
Cheers, Cammy. Cheers, Martin.
Mr. Martin Ramsey.
Pleasure, gentlemen.
Excellent. And that's all from us for this week, folks. We will be back this time next Monday, hopefully celebrating an Old Firm win and looking forward to who we'll be getting in the UEFA group stages. Thanks so much for listening. That's all from us now. Bye-bye.